Coach Rossi, we went into the Iowa game talking about explosive plays allowed. Obviously, they had two that were huge in the game. How do you look back on those two?
Yeah, the first one was actually the first play of the game. We brought pressure and they threw a tight end screen, and we've got to leverage it better in terms of the blitz coverage. It kind of snuck out the back door and then got vertical on us. We got to be better with our eyes, and then I thought did a pretty good job of responding in the drive and forcing them, holding them to a field goal, and then the one late in the game obviously was huge. In terms of we got to take away, they got to take away, and we got to come out and stop them and get the ball back for our offense. And we're playing quarters coverage, and the safety loses leverage with his eyes when the tight end releases, and it ends up behind you. So they were the difference in the game. The ball was going to be the difference in the game. The explosive plays were going to be the difference in the game. And I think the explosive plays probably matched out in terms of us versus them. But they got +2, we got 0. The drive before that, we had an opportunity, got hands on it down and would have been the plus side for our offense if we come up with it. We don't come up with ours, they come up with theirs, and they win the game. And so, there's a fine line between good defense, elite defense, bad defense. There's a fine line between winning and losing when you got two competitive teams. So we were on the wrong side of it. So,
Joe, how much of an impact has Mariano had on this program?
it's phenomenal, and it goes way past being a good player, because he's a good player, but in terms of how he goes about his business, how he prepares, how he connects people, he's very well respected on the team, both sides of the ball, offense, defense, special teams. Offensive coaches have a ton of respect for him. So there's that. There's what he brings to the table in terms of standard, in terms of preparation, of how hard he works in practice, how hard he studies, how hard he plays on game day. Those things all set examples for the younger guys. He gets the defense together to watch film on their own as a unit. And I've been a part of defenses who've done that before, and usually they're good. And so, because when they care so much that they're all willing to get together on their own and do things, then that gives you a little bit of an edge. And so he kind of is the forerunner for that for us. But you talk about if you study leadership, like the last phase of leadership is leaving a legacy. Because sometimes you see leaders the organization does well when the leader is there, but then when the leader leaves, it collapses, right? Well, the true measure of leadership is to have a legacy that it can kind of go on after you leave. And so for Mariano, like, he's kind of set the standard in the linebacker room of what it should look like. And I think I mentioned it here last week, like, there's guys before him too that kind of set it for him. And when I got here, it was Thomas Barber, of just how he goes about his business. And I feel like each guy that's kind of taken over puts their stamp on it and has their mark on it. And I think, that Mariano's kind of taking it to the next level.
Joe, how do you feel your team has responded from such a disappointing loss, and what was done to get them over that?
Well, first on to Wisconsin. I think now you got the Axe game. So, I think that kind of allows it just from hey, who's next and who are you playing? And there's a rivalry game, and it's the next game, and it's a rivalry game, and it's against Wisconsin. I think we were kind of quickly through it on Sunday. Hey, what are the corrections? What are the things we need to get better at? And then let's move on. There's different as a head coach, and then as position coaches, coordinators. After a loss, like, you get a chance to look in the guy's eyes. And so, for our guys, it was they played hard. That was one of the for me on defense. Our defense played in the top 5 of as hard as I've ever had a defense play. I'm not saying it was perfect. Obviously, we didn't do enough to win the game. But in terms of, like, playing hard, they played their butts off. And so, when a team does that, it usually means more to them. And then, it's, hey, there's disappointment. But when you got the right men in the room, they're able to just move on. It's part of life. You know, like we're all going to have different setbacks in our life. We're never going to go 100 for 100. We're never going to go for 10 for 10, 12 for 12. It's just not life, right? So you got to be able to handle adversity, and you know, they're able to handle it. You know, we turned the page, we moved on, and we got a big game to get ready for. So,
Joe, when you look at Wisconsin's running back pair, they've got different attributes. What makes them a challenge in Chaz and Braylon?
yeah, I mean, you know, Braylon obviously has size, he has physicality, he has, if he gets in the open field, like he runs away from people. He gets a lot of yards and creates a lot of yards after contact. You know, he'll be in a hole, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's out. You know, Chaz, is obviously not as big, even though he is a bigger back. He's not a small back, but you know, he's got you know, the acceleration component to his game, and so when you kind of pair those two together, they're a formidable duo.
Brian, I think you're muted.
Joe, what have you seen from Graham Mertz, their quarterback, during this past few game stretch?
Yeah, no, I go back to the Northwestern game, and that's probably the best game that I've seen him play. Other than I think it was 21 for 24 for 200 plus yards in his first start against Illinois a couple years ago. But you know, his Northwestern game, I mean, he did a great job. You know, in the drop back game, the play action game, was really impressed. We've definitely seen growth. We have a lot of respect for him. You know, last week, you know, against Nebraska, I think it was a little bit, you know, that game, like our game, there were some elements, there was some wind, it was cold. Those types of games make throwing the ball a little bit challenging. But you know, they said, hey, we're going to run the ball and we're going to pound it, and they did it. You know, and they were able to take a team at Nebraska and go down and win the game, running the football on them and win 15-14. So you know, I think he scrambled maybe a little bit more than he has in the past, and doing some things, stepping up in the pocket and making some plays. So we got a lot of respect for him.
When you look at trying to generate pressure against Wisconsin, rushing 4 last week wasn't able to really get it done. So how do you think that your D-line has rebounded this week?
Yeah, you know, I think pressure is relative to what the game plan is and what the throw game is. You know, if the majority of the throws are sprint outs, nakeds, and quick game, I don't care who's rushing the passer. There's not going to be a bunch of hits on the quarterback and sacks. If we're rushing 3 a lot, which we did last week, because that's what we felt like we needed to do in the situations that we were presented with, and you know, I believe they were like 3 for 11 on third down. So you know, those decisions in terms of how many people are rushing obviously are made each week based on what needs to be done to win the game, and then based on sprint outs and nakeds and things of that nature. Those types of throws are obviously going to limit the throw game as well. Screens. That being said, I want to see us get more pressure on the quarterback. I think in the last 3 games before that, we had been trending in that direction. If we can get them into longer yardage situations on third down and force them into drop back type situations, you'll see a variety. That's who we are. You know, you'll see 3-man, 4-man, 5-man, 6-man. You'll see different coverages, different zone coverages. That's how we do it. And, you know, I think all those things kind of come together with the hopes of being able to be efficient on third down and get off the field and get the ball back to our offense. And, you know, for the most part, I feel like we've done a good job with that this year. And that'll be of utmost importance this week.
Mariano said yesterday that sometimes when you guys are watching film, you'll kind of stop and he said, quote, get on your soapbox and share some different things. What are you sharing to the guys at those moments?
Life knowledge, you know, because, you know, to me, it's not winning football games is important, and playing really good defense is important. You're a competitor, and that's what your job is. But the reason I got into coaching is to help impact young people, right? And so, like, what they sometimes don't realize is that the secret to life is the secret to football, and they like kind of go together, right? And so anytime I can tie like a life lesson into football or a football lesson into life, I attempt to do it. And so, whether it's, hey, having to deal with adversity, hey, whether it's the process of becoming good, if it has to do with, the details, if it has to do with, hey, when you get out into the world, there's going to be expectations on you, just conversations like that. And they'll chuckle sometimes, but I hope and I believe that they resonate with the guys. And, I got taught a long time ago that if academics in football and in the life part of it and the being the good person, like all those things kind of go together. And when they're all working at a high level, then number one, you're doing things the right way. Two, you're usually successful in your chosen field or chosen endeavor. Because we got a bunch of guys like Mariano. Whatever he wants to do in life, I would be willing to bet that he's successful. And I know he's going to be successful because of how he goes about his life. And so, we got a lot of guys like that. Thomas Rush, yeah. Terrell Smith, yeah. Jordan Howden, yep. I got emotional in the locker room after the game, and I don't really get emotional. But I got emotional because of the senior group that we got. And not because they're good players. I've coached good players in the past. Good players come and go. But, when you get really great people, that's why you do it, and that's why you coach. And we got really good people here, which is awesome.
Anything else for Coach?
Hey, Joe, for those who don't know, what are some of the challenges of defending jumbo packages when team needs to use those?
Number one, uniqueness, because it's not the norm right now. If you go back to 1990 when I was playing in the early 2000s, it was much more common. So then the spread game, that was the anomaly. That was the thing that was new. That was the challenge. I think anytime something's unique, it makes it challenging because you haven't seen it. They create more gaps. The more people that are kind of in close, there's more gaps that have to be defended. And then there's the physicality to it. There's the physicalness, there's the leaning on people, there's the movement part of it. So I would say that those are the challenges.
All set with Coach? All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, guys, have a good Thanksgiving.